Your flight's been canceled and all your Disney reservations are messed up. You go to pay for a meal and your card gets declined. You head to the bus stop to get back to your hotel and the buses are non-existent. Wasn't your Disney World trip supposed to be fun? Don't worry, it still will be. This is where I tell you all the terrible things that have happened to my team and me and give you all the tips on how to make sure they do not happen to you. Today on DFB Guide. Stay tuned for some stories. Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. So that magical Disney World vacation you're dreaming about right now, the one where all your travel plans go super smoothly and every ride you want to ride is easy and the whole family stays healthy and happy all trip long, could unravel when disaster strikes. So today we're talking about the terrible things that have happened to Disney guests in the past, including us, and how you can brace yourself for the worst and anticipate the best. Need some extra help keeping all your Disney World plans nice, neat, and organized ahead of your trip? Go ahead and scan the QR code you see on the screen right now to download our free Disney World planning worksheets, or head to disneyfoodblog.com/disneyplans if you're not a fan of QR codes, and you can get the digital guide sent straight to your email ASAP. Okay, first up, something super embarrassing and super awful. Your credit card gets declined. So having your credit card declined for whatever reason is always a gut-wrenching feeling no matter where you are. But when you're in Disney World on vacation, potentially hundreds of miles away from your home and bank, and suddenly your card shuts off, the panicking intensifies because I'm not sure if you realize you got a lot of money to spend in Disney World. So if your credit card does decline on you at the worst possible time, like when you're trying to make that final payment of your hotel room or you're ready to wrap up your nice dinner, don't assume that someone has already drained your bank account while you were away. A declined card at Disney happens a lot more often than you might think, and that's because your bank is trying to prevent someone from actually draining your account. When you're traveling somewhere and all of a sudden these massive purchases are being made on your card, then your card might identify this as fraud and lock up for your account's safety. So if your bank or card provider has an app, or at least the ability to send you text notifications when it comes to suspicious activity, I would highly recommend enabling that before you travel. Several times over, we've been able to avoid potential card freezes just because the bank messaged us with a little, "Hey, is this you?" message, and we were able to send back a, "Yeah, it's totally me," to get my card unlocked right then and there. If you don't have that option, you're going to have to do things the hard way and call your bank directly to get them to unfreeze things for you, which can take some time. If you don't want to eat up a lot of time playing phone tag with your bank or card provider and you'd rather just figure out the card issue once you get back home, then it's a good idea to have backup cash or Disney gift cards on hand just in case you need to switch up your payment methods for the remainder of your trip. But one of the most important things that you can do ahead of your vacation to prevent this type of card shutdown is just communicate with your bank. You can tell your card provider that you'll be out of town ahead of time so that they'll know why you're suddenly dropping all this cash all at once. Your bank or cards provider app might also have the option to toggle a travel setting too. That way you can let them know virtually that purchases in Orlando around your trip's time frame don't need to be marked as fraud. So it can happen in the parks, it can happen in your hotel room at 2 a.m. It can even happen when you're in the airport before your vacation begins. The possibility of getting sick doesn't take a pause when you're in Disney World, even though I really wish that was the case. So if you do happen to get sick for whatever reason while you're in the Disney bubble, here's what you need to know. First, seek out the healthcare services. Previously, it was a major headache if anyone traveling in your party required medical attention on your trip. But ever since 2021, Disney and their partner Advent Health have been using virtual services via the My Disney Experience app to connect guests with immediate healthcare. So these services include emergency room resources, urgent care and virtual care, a care concierge call center, whatever that is, and equipment and prescription delivery, and lots of other health services too. So if you search for Advent or Advent Health in the My Disney Experience app, you could find an option for something called Guest Healthcare Services. That'll lead you to a separate page detailing more about the healthcare services being provided. It'll also have an option that'll link you to the Advent Health page where you can get more information from there. Now, things are a little bit more serious. Let's get to the emergency room. Sometimes your sickness could turn out to be more substantial than just a tummy ache and a head cold, and you'll need more than just a virtual appointment to get yourself patched up. So when your sickness is starting to get much worse instead of better, it's best to head to the nearest emergency room instead of trying to wait things out. Fortunately, just this year, Advent Health opened a brand new emergency room just minutes away from Disney World over in the Flamingo Crossing area. The emergency room is staffed by a clinical team that includes board-certified emergency physicians and nurses, plus the design of the space has a Key West-influenced architecture and Disney-inspired touches to hopefully make patients feel a little more at ease. If you need to pay the Advent Health ER a visit, their address is 13323 Hartzog Road, Winter Garden, 34787. Other ER services are also close by that are located outside the Disney bubble that you can travel to instead. You can always go to Celebration Hospital, and there are other kind of standalone ERs as well. Now, you can also use first aid. If you start to feel unwell in the middle of your park day, you're going to track down the park's first aid center. You know, we talk about them all the time. Each first aid center is stocked up on the free sample size remedies for minor ailments, so like over-the-counter meds, band-aids, sunburn relief, etc. Also, if you find yourself feeling particularly bad, you can head to a first aid center where nurses on staff are equipped to monitor you. But if you or someone in your group finds themselves in an emergency situation, doesn't matter where you are, call 911 immediately. Now, before you even get to Disney World, things could get off on the wrong foot, starting at the airport. Flights get delayed or straight up canceled all the time, so what should you do if your flight to Disney World does the same, threatening to ruin all your plans? Even before you book that flight, check on your airline's cancellation policies. If your flight is canceled, you might be entitled to a refund for your ticket, and you can use that money toward booking another flight. Each airline is different when it comes to how and when you get a refund and how you can use it after the fact. So don't assume the cancellation policies will automatically be the same across all airlines and all flights. Now, let's say you are able to rebook another flight that leaves on the same day. Fantastic. You most likely don't have to worry about rearranging tickets and hotels and all that stuff. But if you can't get a new flight until the next day or even the next one, then some extra arrangements are going to need to be chiseled out. When it comes to your Disney hotel, it's best to try and modify your room reservation first instead of flat out canceling it, since cancellation fees can be a pretty hefty ordeal. If you aren't able to modify your reservation online or through the My Disney Experience app, you'll want to call Disney at 407-934-7639, which you might want to do anyway to talk to a real person about what's going on with the status of your flight. Just keep in mind that modifications don't mean you won't still be charged a fee for having to do all this at the last minute, but it's better than being a no-show and being charged the full price for a room you don't even get to sleep in. Now, I personally have had some emergencies happen where I've had to call and move a hotel room or cancel a hotel room within that 5-day window, and they've been very, very kind in allowing me to do so under certain circumstances. Now, for your theme park tickets, modifications are pretty easy. Although theme park tickets do expire, even if you're not able to use them at the time frame that you're supposed to use them, you don't lose that money. You can always rebook them. So you can modify your ticket on the My Disney Experience app up until midnight Eastern of the day before the first valid use date. The good news here is that there's no charge to modify your ticket unless you choose a new starting date that has a higher ticket price point. Then you'll just have to pay the difference. Finally, you need to modify or cancel those dining reservations, and you can do that through the app as well. Each restaurant at Disney World has its own cancellation policy, which should be provided to you in your email confirmation for the reservation. The majority of Disney restaurants charge a $10 per person cancellation fee if you don't cancel before that 2-hour time frame before your reservation. But any of those higher priced meals that you have to pay for in advance, those are going to have different cancellation policies you'll want to check up on. To talk to a cast member over the phone about your dining reservations, call 407-WDW-DINE just to make double sure that you're not accidentally charged hundreds of dollars for a meal you didn't eat. So this one's a little specific, but it did happen to me and it was awful. So I wanted to throw it in here in case it accidentally happens to you. So if you do have a delayed flight, it could destroy your night in more ways than one. So you know how we often talk about doing grocery delivery services, right? So if you don't want to bring a bunch of necessities with you and pack them in your suitcase and maybe be charged, baggage fees for stuff, then you can always just order them right to your Disney hotel, right? And this is usually pretty painless, but for some folks, a delayed or canceled flight or even just a flat out really late arrival back to your hotel room could cause some problems. So let me give you an example. When I was traveling with a baby for the first time, I didn't want to pack as many diapers and formula bottles as I needed to get through the time that we were here. And so I ended up just shipping them. I think I got them from Amazon and had them delivered to our hotel. When I arrived at the hotel, they had accidentally been delivered to the business center. Now, the business center was closed because it was like 10 o'clock at night. My kid needed diapers and he needed to eat, and that was not an option for me. So I had to run out to Target in the middle of the night and get some diapers and get some formula because I wasn't going to get into that business center until the next day. So more often than not, grocery deliveries are going to be sent to the front desk of your hotel, but sometimes there may be some issues or some problems. You just want to keep an eye on that, know how the system works, and also keep an eye on the person delivering delivering the stuff. If it's just the regular mail, well, then you'll probably have a tracking number. But if it is a grocery delivery service, just keep in touch with that person and chat with that person. Make sure they send you a picture when they drop off the stuff so that you know for sure that it got there. Now, if you're in a pinch and you really need these extra items ASAP, well, the Disney Resort gift shops, if they're still open, do sell last-minute necessities in lower quantities for steeper price points, but they are open until 11 p.m. each night, so hopefully you can get over there. But the lesson here is, while you don't need to overpack these necessities if you're planning on getting the bulk of them delivered to you, it is important to still pack maybe a day or two's worth of stuff with you so that you don't have to worry if there's some sort of a mix-up or a miscommunication and you don't get the stuff that you need on the night that you need it. All right, let's talk about those unexpected closures. Now, I know we mentioned these on the channel quite a bit, but I think it's really, really important if you're going to Disney World to know what's going to be closed and when, so there's no tears and there's no freaking out when your plans don't go as planned. So rides, pools, restaurants, shows, all of the things you're most looking forward to might not be guaranteed during your next Disney World trip. Closures for certain Disney attractions happen a lot. Sometimes it's for massive overhauls, sometimes it's for technical difficulties, and sometimes it's just because one of these things needs some good old TLC from Imagineers before it's ready to be experienced by the public again. Hello, Disco Yeti. Now, we're constantly updating what closures we're seeing happen around the Disney area via the Disney Food Blog website and our DFB newsletter, but you can also learn about these closures right on the Disney World website and the My Disney Experience app too. Just search for the experience you want to check up on and see if Disney has any of that orange warning notice writing listed for that attraction. More often than not, Disney informs guests of scheduled closures way in advance so you can plan your trip around them. But if the timeline of your trip can't be helped and you may end up having to stay at a resort with a closed feature pool or visit a park when the ride you're looking forward to is down for the count, then make sure you got a plan B in place to help make up for it. For example, if you're looking forward to Haunted Mansion and Magic Kingdom because your friends back home keep telling you how awesome it is, but it ends up being closed for updates during your next visit, that doesn't mean your entire park day's a wash. Magic Kingdom has over 20 rides, and that's not even including all the shows and character meet and greets you can squeeze into your day. So just because one or two of the rides are down doesn't mean you're not still going to have a fun-filled visit. But it's a good idea to research those rides, especially the ones you love, just so you can build your must-do itineraries and know what's open and what's closed. So I don't know who needs to hear this right now, but Disney hotel transportation is not 24 hours. According to the Disney World website, complimentary resort transportation, including buses and monorails and boats, generally operate from about 45 minutes before the park opens until 1 hour after the park closes. The same goes for the Disney Skyliner gondolas too. And when it comes to catching a bus back from Disney Springs and over to your hotel again, those buses tend to keep running until 12:30 a.m., but will wrap up shortly after that. For the most part, this shouldn't be a massive issue, but more problems could arise if you're relying on a Good Neighbor hotel shuttle instead, which might have transportation hours that are super limited. So be sure to double check and see what your hotel's specific bus hours are so you aren't left high and dry without a ride. But let's say you really did miss the last of the buses for the night. What do you do now? You just sleep outside the park gates until morning? Well, of course not. First of all, go ahead and track down a cast member. They may be able to get you some ride suggestions or double check and see if transportation is really completely done or if a nearby bus will still be able to take you home. If transportation has called it quits for the day, then you're going to have to pay for a ride back to your hotel via rideshare. I know, probably not the answer you were hoping to hear, but it's good to know you won't ever be stuck at a park or the shopping district until the buses come back the next day. So make sure you've budgeted enough funds just in case you need to pay for those emergency costs like an Uber or a Lyft pickup. Now, I'm going to put this one in here because I know you already know this, y'all. But if something happens and it goes sour, you are not going to be happy. Believe me, it is a vibe killer for days. We're talking about sunburns. Okay, we're not talking about getting a little sun-kissed here. This is your sunscreen wore off during the middle of the day, you forgot to reapply, the Orlando sun showed zero mercy, and now you're lying in your resort bed as red as a lobster, and you're already tearing up over the thought of just like standing in the shower and having that water on your skin because everything hurts. I don't know if you've been there, but it's the worst. So despite your best efforts, the Florida sun will continue to fight you. So even if you applied a really strong sunscreen before you headed out the door that morning, that doesn't mean that sunscreen's going to protect you all day long. long. So you're going to want to pack that sucker in your park bag and reapply it throughout the day. But how will you know when it's time to reapply? Okay, we got a tip here. Good rule of thumb is every 2 hours, but if you need an extra reminder, there are these very cool little UV stickers. You can get them on Amazon right now. They'll turn clear when you've got enough sunscreen on, but will change to purple when it's time to reapply. A pack of 36 stickers is going to be about $15. On top of making sure you're reapplying sunscreen a bunch, keep in mind that heat exhaustion is also a very real problem in the parks too, leading to nausea, headaches, sluggishness, and possibly even fainting. This has happened to me before. It's happened to people on our team and their kids. You do not feel good after that, and you don't feel good for a few days after that. So it can really, really ruin your trip if you deal with sunburns or heat exhaustion. Now, if you're in desperate need to beat the heat, especially during a summer trip to the Disney World parks, here are some quick and easy tricks you can turn to. Walk through those splash pads. When it comes to water play areas, Magic Kingdom's got you covered. One of our favorites is the Casey Jr. Splash and Soak Station in Storybook Circus. And there are also a few misters and other small fountains around the parks as well, like the Cool Ship Misters in Tomorrowland and the Tiki Misters in Adventureland. So go find those and get yourself some relief. Also, refuel. Speaking of watery relief, remember to stay hydrated. Lots of quick services have free water cups available for you to grab on the go, or you can always bring a refillable water bottle with you since there are several refill stations located around each of the parks. It may even make sense to set little alarms to drink water because a lot of times you're just rushing from place to place and you don't remember to do it. And so set little alarms so that you do, y'all. It's really important. You can also pack those cooling towels. They may not be the most fashionable accessory, but they can be one of the best ways to combat the extreme temps. Just dip your towel in water, slap it around your neck, and immediate coolness. Also, camp in that AC. I don't mean pitch a tent in the middle of the Emporium or anything, but any place that has air conditioning in Disney World, including the gift shops, can be a temporary oasis. Indoor shows and restaurants too have plenty of cool air to spare, so if you just gotta sit through the Hall of Presidents 4 times in a row to cool off and gather your senses, you do what you gotta do. Okay, you are not always going to be able to prevent a knockdown, drag-out tantrum from your kid. You are not a bad parent. This happens to everybody. With the combination of heat and overstimulation and lack of sleep, you may even find that tantrums, ironically, happen more frequently for your kid at the most magical place on earth. But what do you do if you're at one of the indoor stage shows and your kid has a major meltdown? This has happened to me, friends. I don't think I'm that bad a mom. It's going to happen to you too. Upon first inspection, you might think you're trapped since all the side doors for these shows close when the performance begins. But the only show you're actually required to experience all the way through once you settle in is Carousel of Progress in Magic Kingdom, and that's because it takes place in a revolving theater. Of course, in big emergency situations, there's still an emergency exit. Guests are going to be able to use that for Carousel of Progress if need be, but more often than not, a toddler tantrum isn't necessarily an emergency situation. Still, you do you. If you got to get out of there, you got to get out of there. For all the other Disney World shows, though, you are absolutely allowed to stand up and get out. Leave through the side doors. They are open. Even though they're closed, they're not locked. You can get out. Of course, they're not going to lock you in there. That is dangerous, my friends. Cast members can also sometimes notice when you need to get out of there quickly, and they will do everything they can to help you. If you think you and your kid might have to slip out of the show early, place yourself at the end of the bleacher row for a quick and easy getaway without having to scooch on past a dozen other guests in the process. Okay, this is something that is happening to people a lot right now, and I do not want it to happen to you, and it does not have to. We are going to fix this. Let's talk about park passes and forgetting to book them. So starting January 9th, 2024, park pass reservations will be a thing of the past for most guests with date-based tickets, so regular park tickets that don't fall into the annual pass or military ticket or cast member ticket category. Now, notice I said 2024. For some folks, the announcement of park passes no longer being a thing in the near future equates to these park pass reservations not being a huge deal to make now, but that's not the case. Park pass reservations are still required for you to make after you purchase your theme park tickets for the remainder of 2023, and of course the first 8 days of 2024. Without a reservation, you are not going to be able to get into the parks, even with a valid ticket. Park pass reservations may not book up as quickly as they used to, but that doesn't mean the parks never reach capacity anymore. During 2023's predicted busier seasons, especially around Christmas and New Year, park passes are more than likely still going to fill up, especially for Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios. So it's better to book them sooner sooner rather than later. I have seen too many people walk up to the parks not realizing they needed a park pass and not be able to go to the park that day. So what happens if you plan your trip during peak travel season, you buy tickets a little too late in the game, and the park you really want to visit is already booked up solid? Well, first, keep checking the park pass calendar on the Disney World website for any last-minute availability or added capacity. Who visits Disney World? Lots of people. What do people do all the time? Change their minds. Just because someone has a park pass reservation book doesn't necessarily mean they're going to keep it. Things come up and plans change, and when that happens, you just might be able to reap the benefits. We've also seen Disney release more park passes on sold-out days in order to let more people into the parks, aka make more money. We recently saw this happen during the 2022 holiday season. Magic Kingdom was sold out through Christmas week, then bam, Disney released more park passes, allowing more guests to enjoy the parks. Now, second, consider purchasing a park hopper ticket. If you can snag a park pass reservation for a different park aside from the one you really want to visit, you can make a reservation for the other park that isn't sold out and then hop to your desired park after 2 p.m. rolls around. Just remember, you still have to enter the park you have a reservation for before you can go to the park you actually want to go to, even if it's after 2 p.m. For example, if you make a reservation for Epcot, but you want to hop to Magic Kingdom, you'll still need to go to Epcot first and scan your Magic Band or ticket before you can enter the other park. This plan isn't totally foolproof since the park you're wanting to hop to might still be packed out to a miserable level and not allowing anyone else in, but you can always call 407-560-5000 to check if a park is full via automated message. Okay, I don't want to scare you here, but kids get lost in Disney World every single day. And I just want to inform you of what happens when a kid who was literally right next to you just a second ago wanders off by themselves, distracted by something else in the distance. When you lose sight of your kid in the park crowd, more often than not, the best thing to do is at first freeze in place, just in case they didn't stray too terribly far. If you're not seeing them immediately after a quick scan of the crowd, you or someone else in your group will need to reach out to a nearby cast member to let them know what's going on. Cast members will report missing children to the Communication Control Center, so other cast members and park security can be on the lookout for them. When a cast member does find a wandering kiddo, they'll escort them back to the baby care center or the guest relations area of the park, where parents and guardians can pick them up. While a missing kiddo is never something you want to think about, it's still best to prepare ahead of time to prevent something like this from ever happening, or prepare yourself in advance just in case it does. When you're packing everyone's suitcases, think bright, easy-to-spot clothing, vibrant greens, yellows, neon pinks, all easy to spot quickly in a crowd. For younger kids, it's a good idea to have them memorize your cell phone number before your trip. If they do get separated from you for whatever reason and a cast member finds them, that cast member is going to ask them if they know their guardian's phone number so they can contact you ASAP. If your kid is still a little too young to memorize your number, then you may want to invest in a child safety tattoo, which is a temporary tattoo where you can add your phone number in an easy-to-spot location like on their wrist or arm. You can find these temporary tattoos on Amazon for around $5. Now, another newer strategy that parents have been investing in lately is AirTag necklaces. In case you're not super familiar with AirTags, essentially they're little devices that communicate through Bluetooth by sending out a signal to your phone to track down the exact distance between you and the AirTag device, as well as find out what direction it's located. While this has been more commonly used to help track down lost luggage at airports or missing keys around your house, you can now purchase necklaces on Amazon.com that have these pendants that'll hold onto your AirTag device for you, and then you can put them on your kid. They can wear them around the parks like a necklace, which they'll more than likely want to do anyway, since lots of them come with cute character designs that'll fit right in with their Disney bounding style. And since we're telling you to track down a cast member if you and your kid get separated, it's important that your kid does the same instead of reaching out to a stranger for help. Show your kid how to identify a cast member, namely point out the oval shape of the name tags they wear. That way your kid will know they're approaching someone trustworthy. Just because a kid goes missing in Disney every day doesn't mean your kid is bound to be part of the statistic, but if you do momentarily lose sight of them, there are ways to make sure you become reunited once more. And the Disney team will help with that every step of the way. They are very, very good at it because it happens all the time. So after days, months, and even years of saving for a Disney trip, there's no way to sugarcoat how horribly disappointing it is when your vacation just so happens to fall during one of Florida's famous torrential downpours, or even worse, during a hurricane that's severe enough to shut everything down. So much for being the Sunshine State. If it's only the rain you've got to worry about, one of the benefits of a stormy park day is that the crowds tend to stay pretty thinned out in the wake of soggy weather. So even though you're not going to be able to ride any of the outdoor coasters or see the outdoor performances while it's still storming, you'll still be able to experience all the indoor stuff, which makes up a good percentage of each park. But if we're talking about a hurricane situation here, the solution is not as easy as just dancing in the rain. Disney World is no stranger to closing up shop due to severe weather, for the safety of all its guests and its cast members. So if there's a hurricane possibility that you know about ahead of your trip, make sure you're fully prepared by stocking up your hotel room with food and drinks, as well as mentally preparing yourself that this trip might end up looking different than you anticipated. Now, heads up, if you do try to do a grocery delivery, like right before a hurricane, dude, that's not going to happen because everybody else is doing it too. So if you see that a hurricane is on its way, stock up a couple days ahead because you are not going to get that grocery delivery like 2 hours before the storm hits. Also, be sure to pack a few books and card games in your carry-on just in case you're stuck in your room and need some easy entertainment to help pass the time. If the looming hurricane is becoming an even greater possibility, you may also want to consider canceling your trip altogether. Again, not an ideal situation, but it's a better solution than spending a bunch of money on hotel rooms every night, only to never fully be able to experience the parks, as well as potentially being stranded in Florida due to flight cancellations and delays. This is what the Disney website has to say about their hurricane-related cancellation policy. If a hurricane warning is issued by the National Hurricane Center for the Orlando area or for your place of residence within 7 days of your scheduled arrival date, you may reschedule or cancel your Walt Disney Travel Company Disney Resort hotel packages and most room-only reservations booked directly through Disney without any cancellation or change fees imposed by Disney. Most room-only and vacation packages can be modified or canceled online, including changes to travel dates. That's a direct quote. So we have a whole video out now that dives even further into how to survive hurricane season and severe weather in Disney World. So make sure to check that out so you're not caught not knowing what to do while in the middle of some of Florida's roughest storms. Believe me, our team has been in the middle of lots of hurricanes in Disney World, so we got the scoop. Now, here's a wild card problem that you might not have realized is that big of an issue, but it totally can be. Disney offers guests a few options for getting around the parks, including strollers, wheelchairs, and electric conveyance vehicles, or ECVs. These mobility aids can really make or break your park visit if you or someone in your group is unable to comfortably walk for the entire day. But here's the problem. During busier park days, ECVs do sell out. If that happens, you'll have to be placed on a wait list to rent one, but how long you end up having to wait to get an ECV is going to vary. You could end up waiting 20 minutes, or it could be several hours. It all depends on when someone decides to return their rental and how many people are on the waiting list ahead of you. If an ECV is essential to your trip, then you might be better off securing one from an outside company. Many outside companies will deliver your ECV directly to your hotel, so you don't have to worry about having to pick it up somewhere yourself. Plus, you can take these rentals from park to park, which is a pretty big deal considering you can't take Disney's ECV or stroller rentals outside their respective parks. If you're still hoping to rent an ECV at one of the Disney parks, try getting to the park as early as you can, preferably by rope drop, if not earlier. If you're staying in a Disney World hotel, you can also take advantage of early theme park entry, which lets you enter your Disney park of choice 30 minutes before everybody else. But instead of heading straight to a ride line, you can head straight over to pick up your ECV without having to worry about a wait list, hopefully. Now, of course, no Disney World trip is going to be 110% perfect. It doesn't exist, no matter how much you plan or prepare. I'm in Disney World right now, and I have a giant blister on my foot. How many times have I told you guys to break in your shoes, make sure that everything's fine, and you don't wear wet shoes, and you don't get blisters? Well, I have a giant blister on my foot, so I don't know what to tell you. But now you got a better grip as to how you can handle some of the terrible situations that lots of us deal with on the daily that threaten to ruin your vacation. Remember, we're still around to help you plan even more details of your Disney trip through our hundreds of videos and online posts, so keep checking back here with us for even more advice and strategies to come. And don't forget to download our free Disney World planning worksheets over at disneyfoodblog.com/DisneyPlans. As you know, we make all the mistakes so that you don't have to. Thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks for watching. As always, this is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.